When I found those messages, time just froze. The shower was still running upstairs, the sound echoing like white noise in the background, but everything inside me went completely silent. There it was, months of text between Rebecca and her therapist. Flirty messages that slowly turned into full-blown declarations of lust, complete with pictures and details about what they'd done on his office couch. The same couch I'd been paying $200 an hour for. I sat there staring at the screen, numb, reading every line until the words blurred together. That moment, that was the death of my marriage right there in my hands. I forwarded everything to my email, screenshots, timestamps, photos, the entire digital trail of betrayal. Then I just sat back and listened to the shower running, realizing I was living in the same house with a stranger. 5 years of building a life together, and this is what it came to. She was about to tell her therapist she wanted to leave me, and he was cheering her on. The man who was supposed to help her heal was the one destroying everything. The shower finally stopped. Rebecca came out in a towel, steam following her like a ghost. She saw me sitting on the bed, holding her phone. Her face drained of color. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice shaky. "Reading about how incredible you were on Tuesday," I said. "Adrian seems very impressed." She froze. Then her expression flipped, guilt morphing into anger. "You went through my phone? That's a violation of my privacy." And there it was. The deflection. "Dr. Wu was right about you," she snapped. That line hit like a bad joke. I actually laughed. "You've got 30 minutes, I said. "Pack your things. You're leaving tonight." Her mouth opened like she couldn't believe what she was hearing. "This is my house too," she stammered. "Check the deed," I said calmly. "My name, my money." "You've got 29 minutes. She started crying, pleading, trying to spin a story, but nothing she said mattered anymore. There's no version of this where she's the victim. I called my lawyer, Adrian, told him everything. The cheating, the texts, the photos, all of it. He said we'd file Monday morning. I told him I wanted her out tonight. Then I called Jason, my closest friend. He asked about golf plans for the weekend. I told him there was a change of plans. My wife had been sleeping with her therapist and she was packing her bags. He didn't hesitate. "I'm already in my car," he said. That's the kind of friend you keep for life. By the time Rebecca came down the stairs, Jason was already sitting in the living room. She had 2 suitcases in her hands, eyes red, makeup streaked. She asked, "Where am I supposed to go?" I didn't even look up. "Maybe ask Dr. Wu," I said. "I'm sure he's got some therapeutic suggestions." She stood there for a moment, lips trembling, then turned and walked out. I heard the car tires screech down the street. Silence filled the house. Jason looked over and asked, "You good?" I nodded. "Yeah," I said. 5 years with someone who saw me as a bank account, and I'm finally out. He poured us both a drink while I just sat there, letting it all sink in. The prenup she cried about signing, the one her mother mocked me for, had just become my best investment. Rebecca was gone, but the story wasn't over. Because now, this wasn't just about ending a marriage. Dr. Adrian Wu had crossed a line, and I was about to make sure he regretted every second of it. That weekend, I didn't waste a second. While Rebecca was probably crying on her therapist-turned-boyfriend's shoulder, I was busy building the kind of case that could bury them both. Saturday morning, my lawyer Adrian showed up with his paralegal, Jennifer, mid-40s, sharp as a scalpel and twice as precise. I handed them everything. The texts, the photos, even the therapy notes where Dr. Wu had mixed professional observations with lines about how my wife deserved better. Jennifer skimmed through it all, eyebrows raised higher with every scroll. She explained I could file a complaint with the state licensing board, and since I'd paid for those sessions, I could even sue him for fraud. Perfect. I told her to make it happen. For the next 6 hours, we built the case piece by piece. Jennifer documented everything, while Adrian drafted divorce papers, adultery front and center. Dr. Wu had basically written his own confession. Every session note he emailed Rebecca was another nail in his coffin. Sunday, the texts started coming in. Rebecca cycling through every stage of guilt, apologies, excuses, justifications, then anger. I didn't reply once. Silence was the only language left. By Monday morning at 9, she was served. By 9:30, my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. 17 missed messages, and the best one came from Dr. Wu himself. "You're doing this to punish me? It won't hold up in court." The man had gone from therapist to self-appointed lawyer. I just smiled. He was about to learn what real consequences looked like. Adrian called me an hour later. Rebecca had hired her own lawyer, a guy named Parker who wanted to talk about the prenup. "What did you tell him?" Adrian asked. "That it's airtight," I said. "She walks away with $8,000 and a 2015 Honda Civic." "Beautiful," he laughed. Jennifer filed the official complaint that same morning. We started drafting the civil suit, but I told them to hold off. Let him sweat a little first. Let him think a complaint was the worst thing coming. Then Tuesday rolled around, and my phone rang from an unknown number. It was him, Dr. Wu. "Kai, I think we need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about. I understand you're upset, but Rebecca and I didn't plan this. You slept with my wife on a couch I paid for," I said flatly. "You crossed every line in your profession. You're losing your license. Then I'm suing you for everything else. That's the only relationship we have left." He called back 3 times. I blocked him. By Wednesday, Rebecca and Dr. Wu were already fighting. She was furious he hadn't warned her how bad this could get. Thursday, Parker called with a settlement offer. Rebecca would stick to the prenup if I paid her $50,000 and agreed to drop the complaint against Dr. Wu. My counteroffer was simple. She gets nothing, admits to adultery in writing, and Dr. Wu can fight his own battles. Friday, I got an email from Rebecca's account, clearly written by him. A long, rambling message about how I was weaponizing the legal system, full of therapy buzzwords and self-pity. I forwarded it straight to Jennifer. Her reply came 2 minutes later. "This is gold." He just admitted to a sexual relationship with a current patient and tried to insert himself into divorce proceedings. That night, Jason and I went out for steaks. Over bourbon and ribeye, he asked how I was staying so calm. I told him the truth because I was winning. She thought she could blow up our life, walk away with half, and start fresh with her therapist. Instead, she was getting nothing, and he was about to lose everything. Saturday morning, I got a surprise visit. Rebecca's mother, Jasmine, at my doorstep, already fuming. "Kai, we need to talk about this situation," she said. "No, we don't. She made a mistake." "You're being cruel." "She made a choice. I'm just responding accordingly." "You can afford to be generous," she pressed. "Give her something to start over." I looked her dead in the eye. I already did. I gave her 5 years of paying for everything while she built nothing. She can start over with a job. Her face hardened. The prenup isn't fair. She was young. She was 27, not 17. She knew exactly what she was signing. She left in a huff. I went for a run. The licensing board didn't take long. 10 days after Jennifer filed the complaint, Dr. Wu's practice was officially suspended. Rebecca was with him when the notice came in. Another explosive fight, I heard. The next day, I forwarded the public complaint to every professional contact listed on his website with a short note. "For your awareness." By Monday, his network was collapsing. 2 therapy practices dropped him, and a professional organization asked for his resignation. 6 weeks after kicking Rebecca out, the divorce was in full motion. She'd moved in with Dr. Wu, and reality was catching up fast. Turns out, living with your unemployed ex-therapist isn't as romantic as sneaking around with him. They were constantly fighting, mostly about money. Without an income, he was drowning, and Rebecca, who'd never paid for anything in her life, was suddenly splitting rent. Meanwhile, her lawyer kept trying to poke holes in the prenup. Coercion, lack of independent counsel, emotional manipulation. Adrian shut down every argument with receipts. The judge scheduled our hearing for late October. Then Rebecca went public. Started posting online about escaping an emotionally abusive marriage and financial control. She didn't use my name, but everyone who knew us could read between the lines. The comments were brutal, and then one of her college roommates chimed in, "Aren't you leaving out the part about your therapist?" Rebecca deleted it immediately and blocked her, but screenshots don't die. People started sending them to me. Jason thought it was hilarious. I didn't. I told him, everything she posts is evidence. Every word is her trying to spin the narrative. The licensing board wrapped up fast. 8 weeks after the complaint, Dr. Adrian Wu officially lost his license, permanently. Multiple violations, boundary breaches, exploitation, and an affair with a current patient. Rebecca was listed as a victim. He tried to appeal. They shut him down. That's when I filed the civil suit. $500,000 in damages for fraud, malpractice, and intentional interference with my marriage. His lawyer tried to settle for $10,000. Jennifer laughed right in his face. We're not settling for anything less than $300,000 and a public admission, she said. By then, Rebecca's lawyer had run out of steam. The prenup was airtight. The judge denied spousal support, ruled that she'd been fully independent when we married, but even then, Rebecca didn't quit. Her next move? Claiming she'd contributed to my business, that her emotional support and networking somehow built a 7-figure company. That's when I realized she wasn't just losing. She couldn't even accept she'd already lost. Jennifer destroyed Rebecca on cross-examination. Calm, surgical, unflinching, she asked her to name a single client she'd ever introduced me to. Silence. Then, what work had she done for the company? More silence. By the third question, Rebecca's eyes filled with tears. She couldn't answer a single thing. She walked out of the courtroom crying before it was even over. The preliminary hearing was a formality. The judge reviewed the prenup, nodded, and declared it valid. Rebecca would get her car, her personal items, and the money in her own account. Everything else stayed with me. She tried to make a speech about how unfair it all was, but the judge cut her off. You had independent counsel. You signed voluntarily. You committed adultery. You have no grounds to contest. That was it. Case closed. Outside the courthouse, she tried to come up to me. Adrian and Jennifer stepped forward like a human shield. Kai, please, she said, desperate. Just 5 minutes, please. Your lawyer can talk to mine, I told her. I made a mistake. Adrian manipulated me. I looked her dead in the eye. You're 32 years old, Rebecca. You made a choice. Live with it. Then I turned and walked away. That night, an email arrived. 5 pages long. Her version of everything. How she'd been manipulated, how she wanted another chance, how she'd prove she could be the wife I needed. I didn't even finish the first paragraph. I forwarded it to Jennifer. Her reply came fast. She's panicking. Don't respond. I didn't. A few days later, Dr. Wu's lawyer called with a settlement offer. $150,000, no admission of guilt, paid over 3 years. I countered $400,000, full admission, 1 year, and a letter to every professional contact he'd ever had admitting what he'd done. We settled at $325,000, full admission, 18 months, and the letter. Dr. Wu signed it. By December, the divorce was finalized. 8 months since the night I kicked her out. Rebecca got her car, $8,000, and whatever fit in her suitcases. I kept everything else. That night, Jason and I went out for dinner. How are you doing, man? He asked. I smiled. Perfect. You gonna date again? Eventually, I said. Right now, I'm just enjoying the peace. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed, an unknown number. You destroyed my life. I hope you're happy. I showed Jason, typed back 1 sentence. You did. I just stopped funding it, then blocked the number. 3 months later, news got around. Rebecca and Dr. Wu had split. No surprise there. Living together broke and jobless tends to kill the romance. She'd moved back in with her parents at 32. He'd skipped town, trying to rebuild his career in another state. Rebecca tried to restart her brand consulting business, but word travels fast. Her 3 clients dropped her within a month. Her social media turned bitter, angry posts about men, marriage, and how prenups should be illegal because they let men trap women and discard them. The comments tore her apart. Screenshots spread everywhere. She deleted the post, but it was too late. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She was burning her own reputation without my help. Meanwhile, my life had never been better. My business was thriving. Without the constant chaos, I was sharper, more focused. We landed 2 huge contracts in January, and Jason and I started talking expansion. The past felt distant, like background noise fading in the rearview mirror. Then February came, and with it, a letter from Parker, her lawyer. She was filing a motion to modify the divorce decree, claiming she'd signed the prenup under duress. Adrian laughed when he read it. She's desperate, he said. This has no legal standing. So why file it? I asked. Because she's broke and hoping you'll pay her to go away. Not happening. We filed our response, denied everything, and requested sanctions. Then out of nowhere, I got a LinkedIn request from Dr. Wu. Declined it. A few hours later, an email landed. A long apology about how he'd taken advantage of Rebecca, how he was in therapy himself now, how he realized the damage he'd done. I forwarded it straight to Adrian and Jennifer. Jennifer's reply was simple: "Don't engage." So I didn't. The hearing came in March. Rebecca showed up looking exhausted, thinner, older, the weight of her choices finally visible. She claimed I'd threatened to call off the wedding unless she signed the prenup. Jennifer calmly produced old emails where Rebecca had told her friends she understood every clause, even joked it didn't matter because we'd be together forever. The judge didn't need long. 10 minutes tops. Motion denied. Sanctions granted. Rebecca owed $5,000 in court costs. Parker looked humiliated. Rebecca looked shattered. I was content. Outside, she tried to approach me again, tears streaking down her face. "Please," she said. "I'm drowning. I can't find work. I'm living with my parents. I have nothing. Can you just help me get back on my feet?" I looked at her, and for the first time, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pity. I felt nothing. "You made your choices," I said. "Live with them." Then I walked away. In April, Dr. Wu filed for bankruptcy. The settlement payment stopped. Jennifer filed to enforce the judgment, but we both knew you can't squeeze blood from a stone. I didn't care. The money wasn't the point. His career was gone. That was enough. Then, the weirdest thing happened. Rebecca started showing up. My gym, my coffee shop, even the restaurant Jason and I liked. Coincidence? No chance. After the third accidental run-in, Adrian sent her a cease and desist letter, warning her the next step would be a restraining order. A week later, a thick envelope arrived in the mail, handwritten, 12 pages, a rambling confession. How she'd made the biggest mistake of her life, how she thought about me every day, how she'd spend the rest of her life trying to make it up to me if I just gave her a chance. I handed it to Jennifer. She didn't even blink. "We're filing for a restraining order," she said, and in that moment it hit me. This was the final chapter. The storm had passed. The noise was gone, and all that was left was peace. The judge didn't hesitate. He granted the restraining order. Rebecca had to stay 500 feet away from me, my home, and my business. But that defiance in her, it never learned. Within a week, she showed up at my office building, acting like the rules didn't apply to her. Security called the cops. One night in jail, and suddenly she wasn't smirking anymore. The judge extended the order to a full year and put her on probation. One more stunt like that and she'd be behind bars. She finally stopped showing up, but the messages kept coming. New emails, new numbers, new social media accounts, all blocked, all documented. For a few months, May through August, when the silence was golden. I didn't hear from her at all. I started dating again. Her name was Claire. Smart, confident, had her own career, her own money, her own peace. Jason met her and grinned. She's normal. Life felt light again. The business was thriving, the noise was gone, and for the first time in years I was happy. Then September came crashing in. Jennifer called me one afternoon. Her tone said it all. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Rebecca had written a book, self-published, a so-called memoir about surviving emotional abuse and financial control. It was on Amazon. She was promoting it online with the hashtag #CharmSurvivorStory. My name wasn't in it, but anyone who knew us, they'd know exactly who she meant. I bought it. Read it in one sitting. It was pure fiction, a twisted fairy tale where she was the victim and I was the monster. In her version, I'd isolated her from everyone, controlled her every move, crushed her independence. The therapist, the same man she'd cheated with, was painted as a kind soul who helped her heal. Not a word about the affair. Not a word about the fact that I paid for everything. Some readers fell for it. Others didn't. People who actually knew us called out the lies in the reviews. I called Jennifer immediately. "Draft the cease and desist. If she doesn't pull it down, we sue." The letter went out that same day. 2 days later, her lawyer fired back, said she had the right to tell her story, that it was protected speech. Jennifer's reply hit harder. The book's details were so specific anyone in our circles could identify me. The lies were provable, damaging, and malicious. We went back and forth for a week. Rebecca wouldn't back down. She was doing podcasts now, interviews, playing the victim like it was her full-time job. Jason listened to one of those podcasts, made it 15 minutes before shutting it off. She's rewritten history, man. In her story, you're a controlling psychopath. The affair? She says she was just finding comfort. That was it. We sued $750,000 for defamation, a public retraction, and total removal of her book and promotions. Discovery wrecked her case. We had everything, financials showing she barely contributed, her own tax returns, the divorce decree proving adultery, even Dr. Wu's disciplinary records. But the worst part for her? Her own social media posts from during our marriage, the ones where she'd called me generous, loving, the best husband. Her lawyer tried to spin them as posts made under duress. The jury wasn't buying it. By December, they were begging to settle. I refused unless she pulled the book, admitted she lied publicly, paid my legal fees, and donated $50,000 to the domestic violence charity she'd exploited. Jennifer said, she'll never agree. I said, then we go to trial. 3 days in February. Jennifer was surgical. Every claim Rebecca made got shredded by evidence and testimony. Jason testified. My accountant did too. Even Rebecca's own mother took the stand and said I'd never isolated her, never disrespected her, always treated her well. That moment said everything. The jury took 4 hours. Verdict, I won. Every count. They awarded me $500,000 in damages. She didn't have it, of course. Her lawyer filed bankruptcy. The judgment would follow her for years, eating into anything she earned. Outside the courthouse, she was crying on the steps. I walked right past her. Didn't say a word. That night, Jason and I celebrated with steaks and whiskey. Claire joined us. She laughed and asked, do you think she's learned her lesson? I shrugged. She's desperate. And desperate people keep doing stupid things. 2 weeks later, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. 20 pages of apology and self-pity. How she'd ruined everything. How she was broke. How she was drowning. The last page begged me to help her. Just get back on her feet. I read it twice, then threw it away. She made her bed. She can lie in it. A year after that trial, life looked completely different. The business had expanded into 3 cities. We'd hired 20 new people. Revenue was up 40%. I'd moved into a new house, quiet, elegant, exactly how I wanted it. Claire and I were serious now. We were talking about moving in together, and as for Rebecca, she was just another chapter in a story that finally had its ending. Claire knew everything about Rebecca, every detail, every wound, and she never judged me for it. She just understood it was part of my story, something I'd already lived through, and she focused on who I was now. Jason had gotten engaged too, and I was going to be his best man. Life had momentum again. Real, steady, fulfilling momentum. I hadn't heard from Rebecca in 8 months. From what mutual friends said, she'd finally moved out of her parents' house, was living with roommates, bouncing between retail and restaurant jobs, barely scraping by. The judgment still hung over her, pulling 25% from every paycheck. I didn't feel bad. She'd chosen this path. Every decision had a consequence. Then March came, and with it, another reminder that Rebecca never truly knew when to stop. I got served with bankruptcy papers. She was trying to erase the defamation judgment through bankruptcy. My lawyer, Adrian, took one look and smirked. She can try. But debts from willful and malicious conduct don't just disappear. We'll fight it, and we did. The hearing was set for May. When she showed up, I barely recognized her, pale, thin, worn out. Her clothes didn't fit right. The spark she used to have was gone. Her lawyer looked like he'd graduated law school the week before. Jennifer presented our side with precision. Rebecca's defamation was intentional, malicious, and profit-driven. The judge didn't need convincing. Discharge denied. The judgment stood. Her lawyer tried to argue for a payment reduction. The judge skimmed her financials, shook his head, and said flatly, "The garnishment stands." Rebecca started crying right there in court. I walked out thinking about what to eat for dinner. That night, she messaged me on LinkedIn. "Kai, please, I'm begging you. The garnishment is destroying me. I can barely afford rent or food. Can't you find some mercy in your heart?" I deleted it. Reported her account for harassment. By June, word got around and she'd been evicted. 2 jobs couldn't save her when a quarter of her income was being siphoned away. I didn't care. Every bit of that pain was built from her own lies. Meanwhile, my life kept moving forward. The business was growing faster than ever. Claire moved in, and for the first time in a long time, the future felt bright and uncomplicated. Then came August. I was working late, alone in the office. Everyone had gone home. Around 8 p.m., the elevator dinged. Weird, building security usually locked it after 7. The door opened, and there she was. Rebecca. She looked wrecked. Like someone who hadn't just lost a battle, but the whole war. "How did you get in here?" I asked. "I waited for someone to leave and caught the door," she said quietly. "Please, Kai, just 5 minutes. I should have called security right then." But something about her face, hollow, desperate, made me pause. "5 minutes," I said. She sat down across from me, hands trembling. "I've lost everything," she whispered. "My job, my reputation, my life. I'm working at a coffee shop and cleaning houses on weekends. I can't pay rent. I'm 1 month from being homeless." I stared at her. "How is that my problem?" "It's not," she said. "I know it's not. I know I did this to myself, the affair, the lies, the book, all of it. But Kai, I'm drowning. Please stop the garnishment. Let me rebuild something." I looked at her. Really looked. This wasn't the woman who once manipulated, lied, and played victim. This was a hollow echo of her. And still, I felt nothing. "No, Rebecca, you had every chance to do this differently. You made your choices. You live with them." Tears streamed down her face. "I'm begging you." "And I'm saying no," I said calmly. "You made your bed. Sleep in it, or on your friend's couch. But stop coming to me," she broke down. I didn't flinch. "You need to leave," I said. "Your 5 minutes are up." "I'll do anything," she whispered. "There's nothing I want from you," I replied. "Just leave and never contact me again." She sat there shaking until security arrived. They escorted her out while I watched from the window, her beaten-up car pulling away into the night. I turned back to my desk and went right back to work. 2 hours later, I told Claire about it over dinner. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Nothing," I said simply. "It's not my responsibility." She hesitated. "I get that, but don't you think it's a little harsh? She seems completely broken." "Claire," I said. "She cheated on my dime, tried to destroy my reputation, and lied about everything." "She earned this," Claire sighed softly. "Can't argue with that." "Good," I said with a small smile. "Now let's enjoy the meal." 3 months later, I was planning my wedding. Claire and I had gotten engaged in September and set the date for April. Life was smooth, strong, peaceful. The business was thriving. Love was real this time, and for the first time in years, I'd closed the chapter on my past. Or so I thought, because Rebecca, she never truly stops, and her final act in the grand finale was coming. It started with a letter. A new lawyer this time. The letter claimed Rebecca was facing homelessness, that the garnishment had left her destitute, and she wanted to settle, to end the judgment in exchange for a public apology and the removal of everything online about the book. And as I held that letter in my hand, I couldn't help but laugh because even at rock bottom, Rebecca still thought she had bargaining power. Jennifer called me one afternoon. "She's trying again," she said. I almost laughed. "Are you serious?" "I kid you not. Third lawyer. She must have convinced this one she has a case." I rubbed my temple. "What's your read?" "She's desperate," Jennifer said quietly. "The garnishment's eating her alive, my guess? She's hoping you'll take a low settlement just to close the book." I sighed. "Set up the meeting. Let's hear what she's offering." A week later, I walked into Jennifer's office and found Rebecca sitting across the table. She looked marginally better than the last time I saw her. Clean hair, decent clothes, but the exhaustion was still there. A hollowness that comes from too many sleepless nights and too much regret. Beside her sat a woman in her 50s, calm, confident, her new lawyer. "Mr. Parker," she began, extending a hand. "I'm Ellen Delgado. I represent Rebecca. Thank you for agreeing to meet." I nodded. "What are we here to discuss?" Ellen opened her folder. "My client is prepared to issue a full public apology, admit her statements were false, take down all book-related content, and sign a statement confirming she lied. In exchange, she's asking that you forgive the remaining balance of the judgment and end the garnishment." I stared at her. She's offering an apology for nearly $500,000? She understands the damage her actions caused, Ellen replied. I looked over at Rebecca. She couldn't even meet my eyes, just stared down at the table. Why now? I asked. She finally looked up, her voice trembling. Because I can't live like this anymore. I make $2,400 a month. $600 goes straight to the garnishment. I can't afford rent, food, nothing. I'm one bad month away from sleeping in my car again. Why is that my problem? I asked quietly. It's not, she whispered. But the judgment isn't helping you anymore. You won, Kai. Everyone knows you won. Keeping the garnishment going won't make you whole. It's just destroying what's left of me. Jennifer leaned in. She's right about one thing. The garnishment's recovering maybe $7,000 a year. At that rate, you'll never see the full amount. Ellen nodded. So the question becomes, is there value in taking something meaningful? A public admission, a retraction, proof that she lied, in exchange for ending a fight that'll never really pay out? I sat back thinking, what would this apology look like? Ellen slid a document across the table. I read it carefully. It was brutal. A full confession that she'd fabricated claims of abuse, that she'd had an affair with her therapist, and that when I filed for divorce, she tried to destroy me instead of facing what she'd done. Where would it be published? I asked. Anywhere you choose, Ellen said. Social media, mutual contacts, even a dedicated website if you want. I looked at Jennifer. She gave a small shrug. Your call. Then I turned to Rebecca. Why should I believe you'll actually do this? She swallowed hard. Because I have nothing left to lose. And because, she hesitated, voice breaking, you were right. I destroyed everything. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. I threw away a good husband and a good marriage. I was a user. A liar. I just want a chance to survive. The room went still. Her words hung there, heavy and raw. For the first time, I saw the truth in her eyes. Not manipulation, not pride. Just the wreckage of her own choices. The money doesn't matter, I finally said. I wrote that debt off years ago. This was never about cash, and it was about consequences. I leaned forward. Here are my terms. That statement goes on every social platform you have. It's sent to every mutual contact. It stays pinned for a full year. And from this moment on, you never speak, write, or reference me or our marriage again. Anywhere. Ever. Ellen scribbled notes. We can agree to that. One more thing, I said, locking eyes with Rebecca. You'll also admit that the prenup was fair, that you signed it willingly, and that for 5 years you lived off me while contributing almost nothing. Her face crumpled. Kai, those are my terms, I said. Take them or leave them. Ellen glanced at her client. Rebecca, it's your call. Rebecca put her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. Ellen placed a hand on her back. You don't have to do this. We can walk away, Rebecca shook her head slowly. No, he's right. She looked up, tears streaking down her face. I'll sign it. I'll publish everything. I just need a chance to live. I turned to Jennifer. Draft it. The next hour was spent dissecting every word, line by line. The confession grew longer, sharper, more exact. She admitted the affair, the lies, the financial freeloading, the smear campaign, everything. By the time it was done, it wasn't a statement. It was an execution in ink. Rebecca signed without even reading. Ellen made her go back through every paragraph. Rebecca, you understand what this means? This will follow you for the rest of your life. She nodded. I know, I deserve it. We all signed. Jennifer would vacate the judgment once Rebecca published and verified compliance. When they left, Jennifer turned to me. You feel good about this? I exhaled. I feel done. Not richer, just finished. She finally admitted it. That's all I ever wanted. That night, Rebecca posted the confession across every platform, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, even emailed it to our mutual contacts. She pinned it everywhere, and then the storm hit. People she'd fooled for years turned on her overnight. The ones who once called me a monster now called her a liar. Her defenders went silent one by one. Within 48 hours, her social media was a ghost town, empty, quiet. It was over. Finally, completely over. She deleted everything, wiped her profiles clean except for the pinned statement. The confession stayed right where it belonged, like a monument to her own choices. I didn't read the comments. Didn't care to. The truth was out there now, and that was enough for me. Claire asked one night if I felt vindicated. I told her no, not really. What I felt was done. Finished. She'd finally said the words I'd waited years to hear, and somehow that closed the chapter better than any courtroom or lawyer ever could. Life moved on after that. The noise faded, the chaos dimmed. 6 months went by, quiet and steady. I never heard from Rebecca again. Mutual friends said she'd left the state, started over somewhere far away. Maybe that's for the best. In April, Claire and I got married. She looked breathtaking, the kind of beautiful that doesn't come from makeup or lighting, just peace. The ceremony was small, elegant, everything we dreamed of without the ghosts of the past lingering in the corners, and that was the real victory. Not revenge, not money, just peace. So yeah, that's the end of it. Rebecca's chapter is closed, mine's just beginning. And if you've been following this whole wild story, go ahead and hit that hype button. Let YouTube know this one deserves to blow up.